Good morning, or hello, whatever time of day it is for you. I'm Dr. Catherine Cucatone, and I'm here with yoga for my daughters, with Finnegan the dog, and Hobbsy the cat, Hobbs, and maybe Taffy. Taffy hides, so she's not big on the video recorded yoga classes, so we probably won't see her. Today we're going to go through a few practices on trauma-informed and trauma-responsive yoga and dig into a few resources for you. So we'll begin with therapeutic yoga for trauma recovery by Dr. Ariel Schwartz. And I'll read a bit from here. Stephen Porges wrote the foreword, and I want to read a bit from there on why breath work is important. And then we'll be working with a few exercises. Actually, my co-author, Joanne Spence, wrote in Trauma-Informed and Trauma-Responsive Yoga, Universal Practice. And then close with a card from the Polyvagal card deck. And this pairs with Polyvagal Exercises for Safety and Connection by Deb Dana, who is really wonderful at translating Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory into practice. So let's begin with reading a bit from Stephen Porges' actual words here. So definitely recommend purchasing this book. One thing I love is where Dr. Porges makes a connection with relationships and the 8 limbs of yoga. So, for example, in the yamas and the niyamas, which are our practices for helping us relate to others and ourselves, he specifically says the functional experience of the yamas is how we relate to others. For the niyamas, that we're going to work on self-awareness, and that helps us consider how are we relating to ourselves. The asanas, the postures, are how we're relating to our body. Pranayama is how are we relating to our breath. And I would add even our energy, right? Our states. Pratyahara, how are we relating to our sense organs? So we traditionally think of it as sense withdrawal, and it is about our relationship with those organs. And then the last 3 are how are we relating to our mind? How are we relating to this notion of what is beyond the mind? And then deep realization and inner union. And how do we relate to that? So I love that part. And then I'm going to go specifically to where he talks about, I'm going to read a paragraph from here. This is on, in the foreword on page 17. So here we go. In developing polyvagal theory, I was not focused on deconstructing yoga. However, I was intellectually curious about the overlap between the structures involved in each. In particular, I conceptualized pranayama yoga, often called yoga of the breath, as a yoga of the social engagement system. And we often think of that as the ventral vagal complex. In the realm of polyvagal theory, the function of calming ventral cardio-inhibitory vagal pathways is optimized during slow exhalations, further potentiated during abdominal breathing. So let's break down that sentence a little. So calming the ventral cardio-inhibitory. So anything cardio is heart, inhibitory, right? Like decreasing vagal pathways. So really like the regulation of the heart and the calming of the heart through breath work, especially extended exhalation, and especially if it comes from the diaphragm. Does that make sense? So that's that sentence. The neurophysiology of this system has been known for more than 100 years. In fact, the historic physiologist H.E. Herring, 1910, identified cardio-inhibitory vagal fibers using respiratory rhythms. So again, looking at breathing, paving the way for other researchers to document cardiac vagal tone through its functional impact on beat-to-beat heart rate. Polyvagal theory has further delineated the construct of vagal tone by emphasizing that in humans and other social mammals, The primary cardio-inhibitory vagal fibers travel through a pathway originating in the area of the brainstem known as the ventral vagal complex. Last sentence, thus, slow exhalations, especially those involving movement of the diaphragm, have a powerful calming effect by recruiting vagal pathways. So the activities that I chose, for the most part, are intended to activate that area. So the goal today is to explore these cardio-inhibitory breathing exercises. So let's begin with some practices from this book. And I have folded over the pages, which I know some people find alarming. To me, when I really get to know a book, it has changed, right? Like there's this interface between me and the book, and there are tabs, and there's writing, and there are pages folded over. So perhaps this is one of the most powerful breath exercises in terms of aligning with what Stephen Porges said. So this is the 3-part breath. And this is not in the introduction and on actual page 30. So here we go. So we'll start with expanding the belly like a balloon. Now, before we even get into anything, and this is true through this entire book and in truth in our book as well, that before we get started, it's really important to orient yourself in the environment. I can go right to the belly and skip that my body wants to engage in neuroception or deciding about how safe I am right now. So I'm going to go ahead and pause and take a look around. So it's earlier in the morning. Our neighborhood is pretty quiet. It's very quiet actually right now. Finnegan is digging a hole for him to sleep in our carpet, which is fine. He has a pretend hole he digs and then sits. It's okay, bud. I know. Our backyard is quiet. My people are here. I know where the entrances are. My husband is upstairs. So I'm oriented toward the space. And then I can really orient into my body. So I'm sitting on a block. That's nice for my hips. I'm wearing one of my favorite sweatshirts, my favorite yoga pants. And I'm scanning my body. And I have a little tension in the hips. I'm noticing, which is typical in the morning. So I'm going to invite softening there. But otherwise, yeah. So I'm oriented, I'm grounded, and now it's time to come into my breath. So I'm going to start by placing my hands. So I have exteroception outside and inside interoception information while I work to belly breathe. So I'm going to open, kind of expand my belly as I breathe in. And then I'm going to take my navel to my spine as I breathe out. I'm going to see a bit about recruiting these belly muscles. And if you can do this with your nose, if it's not stuffy or anything, if it's stuffy, it's okay to use your mouth. But see about your nose. So I'm expanding the belly out right around my navel. I've had my hands right around my navel, just belly out, making it like a balloon, blowing up, and then belly in, softening. And I'm contracting these muscles a bit, making it an active exhale. Breathe in and out. Good, that's part 1, so it's 3-part breath. So the next part is going to be my rib cage, and think about your rib cage. So it can open this way, kind of like a bucket handle opening up, right? And it can open front to back. So it's a bit of a like opening of an umbrella, closing the umbrella, opening, closing. I'm going to add that on the belly. So the belly breath goes in, and then up here on the rib cage, in, and then I'm going to go out in the rib cage and then out in the belly. So in, breath out, breath out. So I'm getting to a 2-part breath. Breath in, out, out. And then as I practice this, I'm going to work to make it smoother. In, out, out. Ready? So here we go. In, out, out. It's a little difficult to isolate these parts of the body. In, out, out. And this is why we practice, right? In, out, out. In, out, out. I'm working on not closing my eyes when I turn inward, and I didn't know I did that until I started doing these videos. So if you notice me closing my eyes, that's what's happening, is that I'm paying attention to inside my body, and I seem to have a kind of default tendency to then close my eyes. And so I'm working on keeping them open and still being able to turn inward, which is actually probably a good skill to have. So here we go. In, out, out. In, out, out. Good, that's my 2-part. Now I want to take it to the 3-part breath. So it's going to go in belly, in chest, 360, right? I'm sorry, in ribs, now in chest. I was ahead of myself. Then out chest, out ribs, out belly. In belly, ribs, chest, and even the belly, you can think like belly out and expand to the backside body. So all of these can be a 360-degree experience. Into the ribs and then chest. And allow your chest to get kind of like filled here, but let the backside body fill too. Even like if we can fill the chest so it fills even in the side body. So let's just see. So here we go. And we'll start really chunky at first and then see if we can smooth it out. So in, out, out, out. In, out, out, out. Good. In, out, out, out. One more. In, out, out, out. Now a smooth one. Yay. And I wish I would have had us take a number on the self-activation scale. So I think I'll make sure I do that going forward. So in our text here, we have the self-activation scale, and I'll actually do a whole video on that so you have it. But it's very simple. It's a way of relating to the polyvagal theory just on a scale of 1 to 10. So when you're in 1 and 2, you're really in this very calm and relaxed and restored ventral vagal with like your parasympathetic, like, ah. And then when we get to 3, 4, 5, 6, those ones move us from complete rest and restoration into at 6 to 7, where it's like the edge of the window of tolerance. We're just getting a little bit where 7, 8 can be fight or flight, 9, 10 moving towards shutdown. And so when I started sitting here, so later today, I'm doing a pretty big lecture at the medical school with all of the first-year medical students. And so there's a little bit of thinking about that when I first sat down. And then I have the tightness in the hips that I was noticing, a little tiny bit of maybe not hypervigilance, but extra alertness before. So I would have put myself like at a 4 or 5. And then after that breathing exercise, I was definitely down to 3, 4. So exactly what Stephen Porges was talking about in terms of this cardio-inhibitory function of the breath work. All right, let's try another one. I like this one a lot. I like this one. Where's my page tipped over? Here it is. It's not tipped over anymore, but I will. So honeybee breath. Stephen Porges is very interested too in sound and the effects of sound in helping us self-regulate. So I really love this one. And again, this is from Therapeutic Yoga by Ariel Schwartz, Dr. Ariel Schwartz. And this one is on page 56. So here we're just integrating sound into our breathing. And just at first, we can do a humming sound. So breathing in. Breathing in. Breathing in. Now, my favorite sound is the sound of the chickadee in the spring, and it makes a sound that goes something like And I have a brother who has Down syndrome, and when he was born, I was 13, and I would hold him and rock him, and I would actually hum that sound of the chickadee. And to this day, he's 45 years old. He loves when we're, like if he doesn't feel good or needing to be soothed or calmed down because there's a thunderstorm, that is especially soothing for him. Just rubbing his back or giving him a hug and the. So I'm going to do a few of those breaths. So here we go. I'm going to sit more in a squat. So I'm going to breathe in. So we'll call this the honeybee chickadee. Breathing in. Breathing in. One more, breathing in. Yay. All right, so the last part is really emphasizing, so if you're very interoceptively sensitive or even exteroceptively sensitive, this might feel like too much. So just decide what feels right. Like for me already, that humming is quite impactful. So to take it a little bit further, you're going to take your fingers down by your neck, the palms of your hands to your ears. And I can already hear myself talking a lot. And then we're going to add. So let's do honeybee breath. And then maybe the chickadee. Yay. I'm going to do one more out loud without the ears. Awesome. So I can already feel, so I'm definitely feeling 4-3 now, like more 3 than 4 on the scale. And then let's look at, so in this book, this is my special, if you like office supplies, I'm your soul sister. And so I like having things, so I have them handy. So this book, we go through a lot of really helping. This is designed for teacher training, for yoga teachers. I think for yoga practitioners, it's awesome because you're going to see everything that you would need to learn in a training. So if you want to advance your practice, really great resource. But it has all of the kind of theory explanation in the beginning, and then we have at the end the practices. So this one in the end, and Joanne Spence, my co-author, wrote these practices in particular. This one is called stair-step breathing. And she says here, she explains that the busy mind often needs, like a dog that likes a bone, right? And look at, see, Finnegan dug his little imaginary hole and now he's sleeping. But Finnegan, his bones are all around here on the floor. When you give like a busy mind a dog a bone and then it can give something to work on, it can help us focus. So stair-step breathing can be nice for people who have a busy mind. So let's do it. So we're going to go a 4-step in and then an exhale, which gets us to our extended exhale that Porges recommended. So we're going to go so the 1, 2, 3, 4, and release. You can add your hands like I'm doing. I like the extra input for my body. So I don't know if you can hear, but when your body gets to these relaxed states, you affect others around you. And right now, Hobbsy's walking around purring. So he's just near me and he's feeling my body start to move into these states. It actually makes me kind of want to cry. I don't know, to feel very attuned. So here we go. Then it is a beautiful thing that we can have this power over our own bodies and our relationships simply by doing these practices. Yay. So that is our step breathing, and that is on page 230 in Trauma Informed and Trauma Responsive Yoga. And then one of my favorites that Joanne put in the balancing, so not in calming, although she says it can be calming, but she put it in balancing because for some people this can be invigorating. And we're not extending the exhale here, but we are really balancing the breath. So alternative nostril breathing. And often it's instructed by having your thumb and third and fourth finger, but if you'll see my hand, the way my hand works, the third and fourth finger don't separate. So I just put down the middle 3 fingers. And what we want to do is inhale through one side of the nose, one nostril, and then imagine the breath, right, going across, and we're going to exhale out the other side, then inhale back up that side, and then the inhale moves over to the other side to exhale. We inhale up, the inhale moves over into an exhale, inhale up, the inhale moves over to an exhale, inhale up like this. And so in this way, the inner energy of the air is like moving on the inhale into an exhale in your body. So here we go. So I'll start by closing my left nostril with my pinky, and I'm going to breathe into my right. Now I'm going to close my right nostril with my thumb and breathe out here. Left. Breathe in left. Close, and the air is going over here, out. In. Close. There. So very balancing. So a really lovely practice, alternative nostril breathing. And so now we are really in a nice state because we have just done 4 breath exercises, which is so good for me because now I'll go get ready in a moment to go do my lecture and head down to try to park downtown, all of that exciting neuroceptively stimulating activities. So now, let me tell you about this resource. So this card deck, and I just got this, so I'm excited. She has made a beautiful section of introductions and then a whole bunch of ventral activities. These are not yoga practices. These are stuff that if you're a therapist, they're great for therapy, or if you want to engage in a self practice, they're really great for really self work that teaches you about the polyvagal theory and your life. The sympathetic nervous system are the yellow cards, and dorsal vagal, which is the brakes, right? Sympathetic is the gas, dorsal the brakes, dorsal cards. And then I picked a relational card. And I picked that because I started with Stephen Porges talking about how yoga helps us have relationships with all these aspects of self. And I'll close with relationships. So this is this is the notice, name, turn toward, tuning card. So when we notice and name our autonomic experience or what's happening in our body, the voluntary system is this, and the autonomic system is the kind of what's happening automatically. We have the chance to engage with it rather than simply be engaged by it, right? So that is super powerful. When we bring a bit of curiosity to the process, we can acknowledge what our nervous system is trying to communicate. So first step, stop and notice where your nervous system has taken you. So I love the scale, right? Like, where am I? And so it was really nice that after the first breath, I became enough aware, the first breath exercise, of my body that I'm like, wait, let's stop and notice where I am. So anytime you notice is good, right? And we want to get to the practice of really being a chronic noticer. So I was noticing, like, yeah, when I started, I think I was like kind of 4 or 5, right? Because of what's happening today. And then I named the state. So as I told you about the scale, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm like alert, engaged, and maybe, right, a little bit hypervigilant, or, getting ready to do this in a way that's like maybe even threat reducing, right? I was getting like into that zone up there. And then turn toward your experience and tune in for just a moment. What does the state want you to know? So in this case, I had a mixture of sympathetic, so that gas pedal, let's get going, and then also the ventral, like, no, wait, let's connect to myself and let's connect to others here. So those two were activated, and when I first started, there was a dominance of the sympathetic. And then as I practiced, the sympathetic was slowed. I had that cardio-inhibitory, right, action that occurred, and then my ventral vagal, or the connection, and then even a little dorsal vagal was able to come in and experience a blended state of feeling much calmer and self-regulated. So that's what happened. And as you practice, and I'll continue to post these kinds of educational practice type videos to really help you become competent in getting what's going on in your nervous system and these practices that help us feel that way. So thank you so much for joining me in Yoga for My Daughters. And as all of the videos are, this one is for my daughters. So hey, Chloe, hey, Maya. And then for all my other daughters out there, both in spirit and in practice, thank you for joining me. Have an amazing day. Om Shanti Shanti, Om Peace.